In this video, I'll be showcasing a LEGO Elven army that I've been collecting over the years. As it stands, there are now over 80 minifigures in this collection. I've also created some builds for this army which I'll be sharing with you here, including all parts used and step-by-step demonstrations so you can replicate it or build something similar. I drew inspiration from the Roman Empire for this faction since in my LEGO Castle lore, the elves emerged before the humans, so I wanted to reflect our own history, with the Roman Empire preceding the European kingdoms of the Middle Ages. We will begin with the military commanders of this army and work our way down before moving on to the leaders of this faction. Here we have the praetors, which in Roman times were magistrates but commanded legions in times of war. For this world, they rank similarly to Earl Marshals of the human kingdoms, such as Marshal Aelor of the Lion Kingdom and Marshal Roland of the Falcon Kingdom. We've already met Praetor Valnorin in Season 3, who uses the old Legolas torso. I combined it with Din Djarin's headpiece, since the skin tone matches the ears of the elf bard hairpiece. We also have another Praetor here using the steampunk inventor torso, but reversed, giving him the regal look. We also had a third member of this rank, Praetor Salathiel, who we met in Season 2 and 3, but for those that have been following the story, you'd know why he's not included here. For the Roman Empire, a Legatus would be the next major rank down the line, but here I've skipped straight to Centurion. Mainly because I didn't want too many ranks, and I liked the sound of Praetor and Centurion, so Legatus was dropped. For this world, a Centurion would be equivalent to a captain of the guards from the human kingdoms. We've already met Centurion Illithor in Season 3, who uses the Dragonborn Paladin armor piece. There are two other Centurions, one using the Dragonborn Paladin torso and another using a Gnome Fighter torso, but here I've swapped out the arms. The golden armor pieces you've seen are from the Ninjago theme since they hold katanas. For this lore, it's meant to be Gildrum, which looks similar to gold, but is a special type of material, similar to Mithril in Lord of the Rings, or Valyrian steel in Game of Thrones. Next in line are the Optiones, or Optio in the singular form, which are equivalent to lieutenants, but here I've combined it with a signifier rank, so they carry the military standard for their respective units as well. The military standard of the Roman Empire usually had rings and circles on it, so I used the ring piece from the Lord of the Rings sets. There are some colored parts, blue matching the color of the shields of the melee units, and dark green matching the outfits of the ranged units. You can also see the golden antlers up top for the elves instead of a Roman golden eagle. I chose to use this shield since I think the symbol on it can represent the head of a hippogriff. The elves revere this beast, and as you'll see later on, there are hippogriff rider units in this army as well. Under the Optiones are the shield bearers, which uses a Dragonborn Paladin armor piece. Roman soldiers wore aprons made from leather strips to protect their legs, but still provide ease of movement. Here I think these legs look similar to the apron, but instead of leather it's a flexible elven alloy. You'll notice that some of these figures are yellow skinned. These are half-elves, since humans in this world are represented with yellow skin. We've already met one of these half-elves in Season 2 and 3, Prince Helena of the Kingdom of the Crown. Included within this division are elven swordsmen and spearmen. They all use a Dragonborn Paladin torso, but most of them are reversed. The Optiones with the dark green markings commands the ranged division made up of archers. Most of them use the Centaur Warrior CMF torso, but I've swapped out the arms for reddish-brown ones. They also use Professor McGonagall's legs. I've given them dark tan bows to differentiate them from the reddish-brown bows of the human armies. They also wear right-hand gloves for protection from string burns. We now move on to the specialized units of the army. First are the Hippogriff Riders. They are the elite of the ranged division. I got the idea for this from the Night Elves in Warcraft 3. I've given them the Bird Ranger torso and the dark orange Viking legs, since they look like medieval versions of fitted leather flight suits. They suppress crucial targets such as elevated positions atop towers and walls. They also provide air support for special missions, and we saw them in action in the final battle of Season 3. We have more Hippogriffs than Hippogriff Riders, since they are often used by melee units for insertion behind enemy lines. The next specialized units are the Scouts. They are basically the Green Berets of the Elven army, specializing in reconnaissance and guerrilla war tactics. They are effective at both ranged and hand-to-hand combat, wielding swords, bows and crossbows. I've given them the olive green Viking torsos, some of them reversed with various arms and legs combinations so that they wouldn't look too uniform as a unit. When I think of Roman vehicles, chariots are the first thing that comes to mind, even though they weren't regularly used in war. They were mainly used in military parades and other ceremonies. But when they were used, it was mainly for hit-and-run tactics, which I think is perfect for the Scouts division to hit enemy supply lines and other similar objectives. These are the pieces I've used for this build. You are welcome to recreate this or build your own versions of it. The wagon wheel piece I used here are the larger 56mm diameter type, just as a callback to the LEGO Castle King's Battle Chariot set. The chains are the 15 studs long type. All other parts used are pretty common. I think I've broken down the building steps enough to be easily followed. My aim was to make the chariot look quite utilitarian rather than ceremonial, since it will be used for combat rather than parades. I also wanted to lean further into fantasy by making the chariot oversized with an elevated platform for archers. We have a rack for javelins as well, the weapon of choice for chariot riders. At the moment I only have 2 of these Wood Elf minifigures from the Hobbit line, so I've assigned them as siege weapon operators. When I think of Roman siege engines, ballistas are the first thing that comes to mind, and I think it suits the elves pretty well. The main objective that I wanted to accomplish with this build is to actually make it shoot projectiles. This means that it will be very difficult to make it small enough to be minifigure scale, but I think with this I got it pretty close. It looks passable to me for minifigures to operate. The strings I used are 10 studs and 40 studs long. The axle piece is 6 studs long, and the reddish-brown rigid tubes are 14 studs long. These rigid tubes provides the tension to fire the projectile, so if you do decide to build this, you could experiment with different tube lengths. The firing mechanism uses a 10 stud string. I got the idea for this mechanism from a video by JK Brickworks, which I'll link in the description below. His ballista is way too big for minifigures, so I ended up doing something different, but seeing his example helped reduce developmental time significantly. His ballista is a better projectile launcher, since the smaller you go, the more compromise is needed to be made, so I'm happy with the fact that mine is able to fire at all given the scale. I'll be showing some test fires after it's built. I've broken down this build into 2 segments. First is the actual ballista, and second are some side builds for the ballista. I think separating out the parts used would be helpful for people just interested in the ballista. The last division within the army are the Royal Guards and Royal Servants. I used the Rivendell elf torsos with legs I got off Bricklink. Unfortunately, I have no idea which theme they are from, but I think they match the torsos very well since the Rivendell set only had plain dark grey legs. I think this color scheme works well to bridge the gap between the metallic armor of the melee division and the dark greens of the Wood Elf Archer division. The guards with the antlers are the elite King's Guards, the spearmen are the General Palace Guards, and the females are the Royal Servants. Now for the Elven leadership. We have the King, the Queen, and the Prince. This is King Eärendil. He uses Elrond's torso and Thranduil's crown piece. His son, Prince Elnaril, uses the old Legolas torso with Elrond's head and Link's hair from the Zelda Deku Tree set. He wears the spongy superhero style cape from the Hocus Pocus set. These superhero style capes with a single hole can be worn under an armor piece. Below the king are the 4 members of the High Council. When any decision results in a draw, the king hands out the 5th vote to break the deadlock. First, we have High Council Eowyn from the Commerce branch. She is Prince Helena's mother. King Halwyn of the Kingdom of the Crown, being a human, could not marry an elf of royal blood, so his next best option is a member of the High Council to secure an alliance between the neighboring kingdoms. The marriage in effect was politically motivated. Next, we have High Council Thalanil from the military branch who uses the elf CMF torso. He oversees all military affairs and was formerly a praetor. The third member is High Council Philorel from the Chroniclers branch. They are basically historians responsible for record keeping. The final member is High Council Kelathea from the Magic and Sorcery branch. As explained in Season 4, the religions of this world are tied to magic, so he is basically the leader of the religious branch of the Elven society. Finally, we have some examples of Elven citizens here, using various combinations of minifigure parts from the Zelda set, the D&D set, the Lord of the Rings sets, and CMFs. I'll be doing an Elven Kingdom diorama one day, so the citizens is something I'll need to collect more of before that day arrives. I'd like to give a big shout out to our channel members supporting the creation of Scarellis, with a special thank you to our captains, Brendan Bundyboy Davies, Karnosh, Kaya Fried Rice 38, Omni Khan, Henry Nix, Glenn O'Donovan, and Maximilian Mikalski. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.